I'm Lindsay Music with JL Ranch Training. This is Lil Bit. He's here on day 10 at JL Ranch, and we have come a long way since day 1, from pushy and just invasive to fairly soft. Still working on some of that, and responsive and much calmer demeanor at this point. And now we're working on getting in the saddle and hopefully riding today. He has been ridden once before, and that was it, and he broke the guy's leg, so I assume it was one of those, let's see if we can get on this horse and see what he does, and it ended poorly for the rider. So we're being very slow and cautious. This is, I believe, day 3 of him having the saddle on and Jeffrey's method and everything. So we're going to go ahead and get started here right with the saddle. I do recommend wearing a helmet if you're starting a young horse. I believe it's good to protect that head, and it will help you out in the long run should something bad happen. So I'm just going to get him moving here. It's the second day with a back cinch, so I just want to ensure that he's not going to be flanky today at all, as that was a problem earlier on. So I'm just going to get him moving out a little bit. You can see it's a bit sticky. That's okay. I'd rather have a little sticky than bouncing off the walls when I'm going to get on him and ask him to move for the first time. So you've probably noticed in the last couple videos as well that I have used a mounting block while moving around him and above him and everything. I believe this is helpful, especially for a young horse as they're getting used to balancing their weight. It provides less of a weight shift. It also gets me up there a little bit higher so that I can more easily get into the saddle. After a couple of rides, I'll go ahead and start mounting from the ground to get him used to that sensation and the pull of the saddle and the weight. So, but for the first couple ones, I'm going to go ahead and use a mounting block, get him used to that, and it's also, like I said, better for their back. He is not a young horse, so with 2-year-olds, I definitely recommend this, but he is a 9-year-old, so he's fully grown. Bones have settled and formed and fused together and whatnot, but I still like to make this a practice with young-minded training horses. Even though I've gotten on him before over the last couple days, I still want to go ahead and carefully climb up and prepare him for the fact that we're going to be getting in the saddle. Also, you will notice that he is wearing a hackamore for the first time. I have usually put a snaffle bit in, or I go with this hackamore. It just depends on the situation. At this point, I have not put a snaffle in his mouth, so I didn't want that to be his first introduction. I want him to wear it a couple days before jumping straight into using a snaffle, as it can make them sore mouth the first couple times, as if you were working out for the first time. You want them to get used to it and have an understanding. You'll notice I just picked up the reins at this point for the first time. He's experiencing pressure on both sides of his face, so I'm asking for a little bit of lateral flexion just to make sure that he is responding to my soft cues. He is a little bit stiff to do this, but he is doing and picking up on it very well, as this is the first time that he's experienced lateral flexion from a bridle of some sort. He has done some under the halter, but I haven't done a lot of it on the ground, to be honest. So this is one of the few times that he's been doing it, and he's responding very well. Notice that I'm not quick to pull his head around. Instead, I pick up the rein and hold the pressure until he gives me a tip of the nose, and then I release. Now, as we prepare to get him to move his feet, I start by having him follow his nose. The camera was unable to pick up quite a bit of it, so I have a minimal recording here in this session, but he mostly backed, which is fine. He's moving his feet. However, I want to get him unstuck, so to speak, so that I can get him moving forward. And in the second clip, you'll see a little bit more of that. But we start doing that by having him follow his nose, so holding the pressure and gently squeezing him with your legs. He's looking around quite a bit. That's okay. I want him to stay fully relaxed about me on top of him. I don't want him completely ignoring the fact that I'm up there. I want him to be aware, but I also want him to be in tune with me and free to look around a little bit. So this is the beginning of our second session. There wasn't much that happened in that first session other than a little bit of backing that he did and a bit of getting him to follow his nose, which you'll see here. I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it in a minute. So he went ahead and got started very beautifully on this time. He really figured it out, I guess, from the last one, that when I squeeze, I am asking him to go. So this is quite a difference, and you can see what 2 days sessions can do for a horse and how quickly that demeanor changes. He went from backing up and bracing in single steps to understanding that squeezing means right off. So I'm not going to ask for a lot of direction at this point. I may ask for a little bit just to make sure that we got the steering wheel under control. For some reason he should decide to bolt or whatnot, I want to be able to stop him with the emergency stop. But overall, I just want him moving out freely as possible. I tend to fall into trying to control where his feet are going. That is something I need to learn to resist as well, just like anybody else, and teach him to walk forward first before trying to get a lot of direction out of him. And you'll just have to excuse the background noises. A lot of things going on here at my house that aid in distractions, which is to some extent good. It gives him things to look around about and not focus on his worries so much. And it also really splits his focus to try and see that he is focusing on me with a lot going on. So I'm sure you've begun to notice that he is incredibly sticky. He does not want to move his feet much. He's hesitant to walk out, and part of that is related to confidence, just getting used to a rider and moving, and part of it could be contributed to laziness. I may use a flagger at some point in order to get his feet moving, in order to execute the trot, but for now I'm just going to let him get familiar and comfortable with his balance while I'm on him, and hopefully we'll see a progression in each training session so that we can hopefully do so without a flagger. But if needed, I will get a flagger that is a person to stand in the center of the round pen and move his feet for me so that I can just focus on being on top of him and not necessarily focus on his speed or his direction. I like that he is pretty willing. He's not offering any resistance other than just stickiness, but that again is unsure and lack of confidence on what we're doing here. I do at one point try to urge him into a trot and try and step up his speed a little bit by squeezing, and he switches his tail some. That's okay. That's something that he's not familiar with, so it can provide a feeling of a little bit of claustrophobia whenever I squeeze both my legs. I was not able to get the trot out of him today. However, like I said, we're going to go ahead and continue working on it, and should it become an issue in the future, we'll go ahead and get a flagger. As we get going, I like that he is really starting to get a little more comfortable and moving out a little bit more. That's something that's showing me that he's starting to relax into it and get a little more comfortable with what we're doing. As we go, I'm starting to use a little bit more leg pressure and a little bit more movement with my seat and turning with my shoulders to try and get him to turn a little bit more. So I'm starting to use my body a little bit more as we get going here. As I ask for the stop, I prepare by sitting deeper into my seat on my pockets, as they say, and then I relax my shoulders downward and say whoa, and then pull gently back on the reins. Ideally, I want his hind end to come up underneath of him, preparing him eventually for faster and better stops. For now, we're just learning how to stop. At this point, I'm beginning to request a little bit more speed. You'll see that he's not conceding, so he's still got a bit to learn as far as that goes. However, he's not reacting negatively either at this point. I am bumping him with both legs a little bit and trying to cue him up into the trot, giving him a loose rein to work with, and bumping and kissing in attempts to have him go at a faster speed.